Welcome to Grace Mitchell Stories, where every tale reminds us of the power of truth, kindness, and love. Today's story is about a rancher who faced an unexpected encounter with two children, and the choice he made that stunned everyone around him. The land stretched endlessly, a golden sea of wheat swaying under the warm Texas sun. Beyond the field stood the rugged outlines of hills, dotted with cattle grazing lazily in the distance. Life on the ranch was hard but steady, and for James McAllister, a man in his late 40s with weathered hands and a face marked by sun and time, the ranch was more than just land, it was legacy. Passed down through generations, every inch of soil carried the sweat and memory of his family. James lived alone on the ranch since his wife, Claire, had passed 5 years earlier. Her laughter had once filled the big farmhouse, but now silence echoed through its wide halls. His grown son had moved to the city, chasing a different kind of life, leaving James with his work, his horses, and the quiet ache of loneliness. The ranch kept him busy, but there were nights when he'd sit by the fire, wondering if his life had narrowed into nothing but routine. It was on one such afternoon, after mending a broken fence and driving the cattle toward a new pasture, that James noticed something unusual. On the far edge of the property, near the old barn that hadn't been used in years, he thought he saw movement, quick, small, darting. At first he assumed it was a stray dog or maybe a deer, but when he got closer, he froze. Two children, a boy, maybe 9 years old, stood protectively in front of a younger girl who couldn't have been older than 6. Their clothes were tattered, their hair unkempt, and both looked exhausted, as though they hadn't eaten a proper meal in days. James stopped in his tracks, unsure what to do. The boy's eyes were wide, filled with fear, and before James could speak, the child shouted in a trembling voice, "Please don't hurt my sister." The words struck James harder than any physical blow could have. His chest tightened as he raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. "Whoa now," he said gently, his voice low and calm. "I ain't gonna hurt nobody. What are you two doing out here?" The boy didn't relax. He kept his little sister behind him, his small arms spread as though he could shield her from the world. The girl clung to his shirt, her big eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We don't mean trouble," the boy said shakily. We just needed a place to rest." James could see the dirt on their skin, the torn shoes, the way the girl leaned heavily against her brother. These weren't runaway pranksters. These were children in real need. He took a careful step closer. "What's your name, son?" The boy hesitated before answering. "Eli." He pointed slightly to the girl. "This is my sister, Lily." James nodded, his throat tight. "All right, Eli and Lily, my name's James. This here's my ranch. You two looking for food, water?" Eli's lips pressed together, pride and desperation warring in his eyes. Finally, he gave a small nod. That was all James needed. He extended his hand, not expecting Eli to take it, but hoping to show trust. "Come on then, let's get you both something to eat." The children hesitated but followed at a distance as James led them toward the farmhouse. Inside, he rummaged through the kitchen, fixing sandwiches, pouring milk, and setting apples on the table. Eli urged his sister to eat first, watching her carefully as if afraid it might all be taken away. Only after Lily had taken a few bites did Eli begin to eat himself, each bite cautious, almost guilty, as though survival was a crime. James sat across from them, studying their faces. He wanted to ask 100 questions. Where they came from, why they were alone, but he could see how fragile they were. He chose patience instead. When Lily finished her sandwich, she gave James the faintest smile. "Thank you, Mr." The simple words pierced the wall around his heart. He cleared his throat roughly. "You're welcome, sweetheart." Over the next hour, the children rested on the couch, their exhaustion finally overpowering fear. James stepped outside onto the porch, running a hand through his graying hair. What was he supposed to do? Call the sheriff? Social services? His gut twisted at the thought of strangers dragging the children away without care. Later, when Eli awoke, James finally asked, "Son, where are your folks?" The boy stiffened, his eyes darting toward Lily, who was still asleep. His voice dropped to a whisper. "They're gone, Pop." He wasn't nice. "Mama tried, but he trailed off, choking on words too heavy for a child. "It's just us now." James felt a cold fury rise inside him. He knew what the boy wasn't saying: neglect, maybe abuse, maybe worse. He'd seen it before in neighbors' households that hid behind closed doors. Looking at Eli, standing guard over his sister, even in sleep, James saw himself decades ago. He'd grown up with a hard father too, a man who thought cruelty was discipline. Only Claire's love had softened him, given him a chance to break that cycle. He placed a firm hand on Eli's shoulder. "You did good protecting her." But you ain't alone no more. You hear me? Not while you're here. Eli's lip trembled, but he nodded. For the first time, a flicker of trust appeared in his eyes. Days turned into weeks. James contacted the authorities, but the system moved slowly, tangled in paperwork and uncertainty. Meanwhile, the children settled into life at the ranch. Lily adored the horses, often feeding them carrots and whispering secrets into their ears. Eli helped James with chores. Eager to prove himself, he carried buckets, fixed gates, and even learned to ride. Neighbors noticed too. When word spread that James had taken in 2 lost children, some raised eyebrows, others whispered. But those who visited the ranch saw the change in him. The hardened man who once kept to himself now laughed when Lily ran circles around the barn or when Eli asked endless questions about cattle. One evening, at a community gathering in town, an official from Child Services questioned James. "Mr. McAllister, are you sure you're prepared for this responsibility? Temporary custody can turn permanent. You're alone out there." James met the man's gaze, his voice steady. "Those kids deserve a home. I've got one. That's all that matters." The official looked skeptical but made notes on his clipboard. Meanwhile, Lily clung to James's hand, refusing to let go. It wasn't easy. Nights were hardest, when Eli woke screaming from nightmares, or when Lily cried for a mother she barely remembered. James would sit beside their beds, telling stories of Claire, his late wife, and how love could still wrap around you even if someone was gone. Slowly, the children's fear eased. One rainy night, as thunder shook the windows, Eli crawled into James's room. "Mr. James," he whispered, "what if they take us away?" James pulled the boy close, remembering his own son at that age. "Then I'll fight, Eli. I'll fight with everything I've got." The boy's tears soaked his shirt, but James held him tight. Weeks later came the court hearing. The small-town courthouse was filled with townsfolk who'd heard the story. Some came to support, others out of curiosity. Eli and Lily sat nervously beside James, their small hands clutching his. The judge, an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, reviewed the case. "Mr. McAllister, you understand the gravity of this. 2 children, abandoned, in need of stability. Are you prepared to give them that for the rest of their lives?" Before James could speak, Eli suddenly stood, his voice cracking but clear. "Please, Your Honor, don't make us leave him. He's good to us. He takes care of Lily, he makes her laugh. He's like the dad we never had." Gasps rippled through the room. Lily clung to James's arm, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Please don't hurt my sister," she whispered again. The same words she'd spoken that first day, but now they carried a different meaning. The judge leaned forward, her eyes softening. "Child, no one here wants to hurt your sister, or you." She turned her gaze to James. "Mr. McAllister, it seems these children already see you as family." James swallowed hard, his voice thick with emotion. "That's because they are, Your Honor. They're mine, as sure as if they were born to me. And I'll spend the rest of my life provenant." The room fell silent. The judge's gavel struck, her decision firm. "Then so be it. Custody is granted to James McAllister." The courtroom erupted in murmurs, some in shock, others in joy. Eli hugged James fiercely, while Lily squealed, clapping her hands. Outside, under the wide Texas sky, James knelt before the children. "You're home now forever." For the first time in years, his heart felt whole. He realized that family wasn't just blood, it was love, chosen and fierce. The ranch, once quiet and lonely, now rang with laughter, the sound of new beginnings. And so, the story of 2 frightened children and 1 weathered rancher spread across the community, reminding everyone that kindness has the power to heal and love can turn strangers into family. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Grace Mitchell Stories, where every week we share powerful tales of love, courage, and hope.